What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the ARC Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Zachary, here with my co-host, Matt Owens. Matt, how we doing tonight?
Doing well, man. Just finished up the holidays, so I'm excited to get back to work.
Yeah, we decided to do this episode today on the importance of gratitude because I think timing wise, with Thanksgiving just passing and now the other holidays coming up, we thought it would be a great time to kind of go over why gratitude is important and why it's also important for athletes, coaches, and teams. Because I think when we think of gratitude, we might not necessarily think of it in like an athletic sense or I guess how it might help us as athletes, coaches, and players and people overall. But this episode, I think we wanted to dive into kind of the importance of gratitude and why it is important for any athlete to kind of utilize it and put it into their daily routines. So, I guess to start it off, Matt, for you and kind of the way that you've used gratitude in the past, I'd love to hear from your perspective, like how has gratitude been important for you and how have you kind of implemented it, or even if you've struggled to implement it? Because I think for me in my playing career, I think struggled to, I guess, use gratitude the way I probably should have. But I'd love to hear from your perspective how either you've used it or I guess struggled to use it in the past, both as a player and now as a coach.
Yeah, I think from a playing standpoint, the one biggest moment for myself where like I used gratitude the most was pretty much being a late signee out of high school, getting a chance to go to Chestnut Hill College and everything. Yeah, I believe I signed in May of my senior year, so super late. So when I got there, just being thankful to just be able to have an opportunity to play college baseball, right? And that kind of set up just the work and like the process I had like that first full year. I think a moment where I really did struggle was, ironically enough, was my junior year in college was when I first was able to be like, okay, I'm gonna be a full time starter now, like, and there's no real like looking over my shoulder. There's no having to look up at someone in the depth chart. Like I'm here, and I think I kind of took what I had done the last 2 years and the opportunity that I was now presented with a little bit for granted. Which by the time then when I got someone else that was better than me, when they came in the next year and everything like that, then it's like okay, it almost kind of lit the fire underneath me again. And I was able to be like, wow, like I was so thankful the 2 previous years, and in that year I was kind of just like, oh wow, I'm here. Like it's just another day, rather than
Right,
treating it like I
right.
did the previous years. I think those were kind of like the two biggest moments, good and bad, for me with that realm.
Yeah, I think, you know, kind of echoing your junior year story and sentiment, right? Like I feel like especially in college when I was playing, a lot of times gratitude in a sense felt foreign to what we were doing almost, right? Like we were so outcome driven and of course you want results, results, results. So the only thing that was on your mind was like what's the next thing that I can do, accomplish, whatever. And like we've had so many people come on the podcast and kind of share the same thing. It's like when you're in it, that's the only thing that you're focused on, where you don't really have a moment to take a step back and be like grateful for it, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And like I feel like the biggest thing for me, gratitude wise, where I guess I failed myself in that department was I think my sophomore year. So the way the NJAC structure had worked, they named the all conference teams and like the players of the year and pitchers of the year literally like the week of our conference playoffs, like the first round. And I think on that Friday or Saturday or Sunday, whenever it was, I got named that I was, co NJAC pitcher of the year, which was great and awesome. But I remember thinking, like, in the moment, you're very excited and grateful for that, representation and significance. And it's obviously something, you worked really hard for. But I think I almost went in the complete opposite route where it's like, I can't really be grateful for this or soak in this because I was starting in the first round of the playoffs. Where then it was like, okay, now all of my attention needs to be shifted towards this other thing rather than like in that moment, it almost would have been better for me to be like, you know what? I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I've had, the experience that I've had. And now going into this first round of the playoffs, right? It's like what an opportunity and experience I've had, especially after a freshman year where I got 6 innings. It should have been more of like a, my God, I'm just grateful for this opportunity, and the things that have happened, the way that they have happened, have been so awesome.
Yeah.
Where instead of that, it was almost like, oh, blinders are on now. Like, this happened, great. Like, so happy. But now the thing that I'm focused on is like winning this next game. Where if you can kind of appreciate those small wins, I feel like that adds up a little bit more and almost relieves the pressure off of yourself. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not saying I should have went out and, celebrated crazy or hard for this thing that, the achievement, but almost appreciating it a little bit more and understanding too, it's like, okay, there were a lot of people that helped you get to this point, and being grateful just for the experiences that you've had. So I feel like there was like the biggest kind of reminder of that. But I feel like throughout my college career, I guess this idea of gratitude was a little bit, I guess, difficult to grasp. I don't know if you kind of feel the same way, but that's kind of how I like interpreted it.
Yeah, I feel like, as time goes on, it's you kind of have to face another obstacle to kind of get refocused and be
Yeah.
thankful again for kind of like what you have, right? Like, obviously, every player is like, hey, I want to play, or majority want to play like professional baseball and everything like that. So it's like as you kind of get going, you almost put so much stock into what's next, like what's down the road, like an opportunity, like, am I even going to get this opportunity? Or some people feel like they deserve the opportunity. So you kind of lose sight of what has gotten you there and like what you should be kind of pumping your energy into, being like, okay, well, I'm better today than I was yesterday, and like I'm thankful for
Right.
that. Like, here's how I got here, here's the people that helped me with that. Like, I'm grateful for where I stand today. Whereas like we kind of all look into it, and it's like you're on the clock, right? So like I think
Yes.
you're always losing. Like, as soon as you get into college, you're losing time to get to that next, like, that next level or that next step, or until your career is done. So it's like it's so much harder in the moment to actually sit there and be like, wow, this is great. Like, I'm thankful for
Yes.
this, until you're
Right.
done and you look back and you're like, man,
Yes.
like, I could have done this. I could have done that. I am grateful to have had this. I am grateful to have that. Like, I feel like the clock is the one thing that really makes it so much more difficult. And personally, I feel like I'm much more thankful as a coach than I was as a player.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, of course, when you separate yourself from that moment, you realize all of the things that you learned. It's like really, I don't know, cool to look at now. And it's a lot easier to understand and comprehend. Where, like you said, when you're in it, it is always that next thing. And I've had a lot of reflection about that recently, where I feel like when both of us were playing, right, it was almost like even the way you and I would talk to each other, like what we would verbalize was always like, okay, great, this, like, you did this, now what's the next thing? Like, keep climbing, keep climbing. It's always like, and of course, I'm not here to say like you shouldn't be pushing yourself, you shouldn't be pushing others. Like, it's a very big piece of that, but being able to cherish small wins is also extremely important, no matter what that is, whether that's in an off season where you're working on specific things or you're coming back from an injury, right? Like, thinking, let's say the example I'll just use is like coming back from like a Tommy John surgery, where if you're just focused on, I need to get on the mound again as soon as I possibly can, you're going to get to that goal a lot slower than if every day you're like, oh, I have 10 throws today at 25% to recover. Like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to make the most of these throws. And then I'm going to be appreciative that, hey, I had just had throwing taken away from me for however many months. Now I got 10 throws under my belt. That means I'm 10 throws closer to getting to the goal that I want. I'm really appreciative for that. Kind of helps you stay grounded in that moment and focus on the tasks that you need to do every day rather than thinking, okay, what can I do just to get to the next rung up, next to the next thing that's higher than where I'm at this current moment? It's focusing on, okay, what is in my control right now? And how can I kind of maximize that and be grateful for the opportunity that I do have today to get better and to keep improving and building on that.
Absolutely. And I think too, like, you and I both having been injured at some point, like, I feel like we were able to almost have that be kind of like our first piece of like being gratuitous to like the
Yes.
process being gratuitous to
Correct.
like the game and everything like that, where it's like, you know, even evaded us as we kind of went along and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it's like
Right.
but like having that first moment almost kind of teaches you. It's like I was here and now I'm here, and like now it's something where it's like I can look back and I'm like, wow, like this is great. Like I
Yeah.
might not have been here, and maybe I shouldn't be here,
Right.
but at least
Right.
you can
Right.
look back and be like, I did my rehab, I did my PT, I I think any mental, grind comes with being injured. So it's like you almost overcome like the negative thoughts, you overcome like the self doubt and everything in that moment, and then you get to like your next step, and then it's like it almost kind of like washes away. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh well, I need to get on the field now as a freshman, and then you don't, and you're just like, all right, put in the work, and it goes from being thankful to even being there to I need to play, and then you play, and then it's just like, well, I need all conference, and then you're not all conference,
Right.
and it's just like along the way you lose that thankfulness and everything.
Of
So I'm
course.
glad you said something about being like hurt, because I said the two biggest moments was being able to play in college. Like what the biggest moment for me actually was overcoming being injured my junior year of high school. Like that had
Right.
to be the biggest thing for me.
Right. And I think it's really funny looking back through it, like the shifted perspectives that we both probably have now, where your story is really unique. And I don't even know if we've dove into the extent of it on here, but like your story with your injury is extremely unique because you were a pitcher and you were getting recruited to colleges as a pitcher. And that was the trajectory that you wanted to go on. Basically, you had dropped the bat and were like, I'm done with this type of thing. Like we're out of here. I'm sticking on the bump. And you tear your labrum, and obviously that hurdle is an enormous one in itself. And you basically had to go back to ground zero and reteach yourself how to hit, basically. Like, obviously, listen, you had a lot of people along the way to help you and do that, but a lot of that was on your own, building yourself up in order to become a collegiate hitter, basically in what, 12 months?
Yeah.
Maybe less? Like, when you put it into perspectives like that and think about it, it's just like, crazy to even think, like you said, right? Like, getting that opportunity to go play in college after battling an injury and having to redefine your whole identity as a baseball player, going from I'm going to be a pitcher to now I'm going to be a hitter, is like unbelievable and crazy in itself. And looking back, like now you can look back and be like, wow, I'm grateful that that happened because I learned a lot about myself. I built myself up and I basically learned from the ground up. And now that has led you to coach hitters for your profession, right? Which is awesome. Like super cool. But again, that doesn't happen without you getting injured. Like we don't know where your trajectory would have went if you didn't end up tearing your labrum, right? And having to vacate from the pitching side. So when we put things into a different perspective like that, like obviously in your moment, the only thing you're focused on is like, all right, I need to become a better hitter. I need to play college baseball, like you said. Now I need to be all conference. Now I need to, go sign a contract at a college. Like when we actually take a step back and it's like, wait a minute, where did this all begin from and stem from? It's really cool to see, and now we can be a lot more grateful looking at that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was ground zero, honestly,
Yeah,
for
yes.
me.
Yeah.
It happens like obviously like everything recruiting, everything's like kind of changed in the last 10, 11, 12 years, whatever. But like at that moment, like for us, it's like if you don't have a junior year, like you're probably not going to play like college baseball. And like there was still that stigma around like going to like a junior college, like you're probably in this boat, right? Like more of a negative boat than like a positive boat. Unfortunately, there was that stigma, and us being former junior college coaches, we also know that that's not true. But at
Right,
the time,
right.
like coming up, like that was the thing. And like for me, like, that was my first time ever in my life, like having to have like my back against the wall, having to like kind of relearn, like, and just over that time frame, just kind of led me down that path where I'm like, wow, like this is great. Like I'm indebted to Steve Gallagher, Ian Lindsay, Frank Nicolosi for like helping me along that like 12-month journey where it's just like, okay, like how do you get a kid ready, in 12 months to go play college baseball? Like,
Right.
you're like, oh man, like this kid hasn't swung a bat in 2 years. Like he
Right.
can't throw. Like the first couple times, like my arm is like not even like really like being able to have like full like range of motion and everything like that. And so like they would pick me up from school, they would take me to a cage and like we're hitting. And it's like that was what it was. And like I just became super thankful that it was like the next day, like I'm getting picked up by like, guys I look at like my big brother and everything like that. And they're gonna help me, invest in myself and help me get better, help me
Right.
get to like another point. And like it just almost became like if we're hitting on Monday, I'm just thankful to be there that day.
Right.
We hit
Right.
Tuesday. I'm thankful that they even picked me up yesterday, and I'm thankful that even after yesterday's session, they came pick me up again. So
Yeah. Right.
it just kind of became that whole thing. But that was truly that was step one for me.
Yeah, no, and I think looking back, we were just kind of going through that, and a lot of kind of the conversation that we wanted to have today too also embodies like how we can implement that as athletes, right? And just going through the two of our journeys through that time, like just again, the perspective that I'm kind of focusing on or looking at is at this point now when we were talking about like in college, I feel like both of us were just so trying to be tunnel vision because that's stereotypically what they say is what you need to be doing, right? Is like just focus on the next goal, don't like embellish in what just happened, like make sure you just keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. But a big thing that I feel like is coming into the athletic sphere and mental space sphere now is journaling your gratitude, where I feel like a big help for the two of us at that time also might have been journaling not just what we're thankful for and what we're grateful for that day, but going into your why and continuously writing about your story and your journey. Because if you write about where your journey began, you will quickly see all of the things that created resilience and created who you are today. And that will make you very appreciative and thankful for the things that you had to endure in order to get to where you are today. So then you're not really focusing on what is needs to happen in the future or what you need to work on. You're appreciative for what you've been through and what makes you you today in that very moment, right? It kind of outlines what your strengths are. Because I think, looking back, same thing. I've had so many excellent coaches. Like you said, Frank Nicolosi, another one who, I owe so much to. I, can't even begin to explain how thankful I am for him as a coach and a friend and like an older brother figure, like you said. Just like writing down those stories of like, okay, this is where I was when I began. Like these guys used to pick me up and like coach me. And like even just texting them and like rehashing stories through that. It'd be like, so how was I as a hitter like when we first started? And he'd probably be like, truthfully, Matt, you were terrible. And it's like just putting those things. And same thing with me. It's like, oh, what was I like when we first started like pitching together? And he'd be like, oh yeah, you were lost cause, whatever it was. You know what I mean? Just like thinking back to that moment at the very beginning puts things into perspective for right now. Because it's like, even though you're focused on trying to get better and be the best version of yourself, both as a person and as a pitcher, or a hitter, or infielder, outfielder, whatever it is, when you go back to like, okay, this is where I was at, and now I've grown to a point where I'm at this level, like, how thankful am I that I get the opportunity to play at the collegiate baseball level? How thankful am I that I even can sniff an opportunity to play at the next level beyond college? How thankful am I to potentially, fight for an all conference spot, hopefully, or be on a team that's going to fight for a conference championship or go to regionals or whatever that is. Just being able to put pen to paper and write those things down ultimately helps you a ton and can kind of put a lot of things into perspective for you.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say like for like journaling? Take us through like what you would possibly do. Like put yourself back in those shoes
Yeah.
and be like, how would you kind of almost like structure it? Like if you're keeping a journal, what would be your first step? Like what would you write down to show, you're grateful for what's happened, what you have currently, and kind of, let's say part two of that, you're doing a reflection
Yeah.
of things that happened, right? How would you almost write down the thing that you're grateful for and then kind of spider web that out?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this is a really good tool that athletes can use and that coaches can use as well. Like, I think this is for everyone. Um, But I think when we're talking about gratitude and journaling, I think everyone's journaling is much different. Some people might want to write paragraphs and paragraphs, right? Like when we were just talking about like what does your story look like? Maybe that is something you want to write out and you could write paragraphs on that. Or maybe you're someone that needs a prompt. Someone that, okay, every morning I'm going to wake up and write two things that I'm grateful for. Or at the end of the day, I'm going to write two things that I'm grateful for before I go to bed, no matter what, right? Whatever it is. Today I'm grateful that we had practice and I'm grateful that I'm still healthy, whatever it is, right? I think the biggest key in all of that is the words that you use. They hold a lot of weight and a lot of power, right? You mentioned reflection, which is extremely important. And I think every athlete should be able to reflect on what are the things that I did really well today and what are the things that maybe I need to improve on. Now, I don't think the verbiage that you want to use are what were my failures today? What was I not good at today? It's things where what did I learn today? Using that and shifting that perspective to that, where now we're in a growth mindset rather than in that negative headspace, right? So you can focus on, okay, what am I grateful for today? Like, what are some things that I excelled at practice today? Because I'll tell you one thing, when I was in college, that was definitely not something that I thought about or implemented at all. And I'm sure you're the same way. Like, I didn't come out of a practice and be like, man, I really did well at X, Y, and Z. It was always like, okay, what do I need to focus on for tomorrow? And now, if we can shift that in, okay, what were the successes from practice today? Well, I threw a bullpen today and I threw 75% strikes. Bang, that's a huge check. That's a huge win. It could be something stupid. We took PFPs today and, I fielded every ground ball and it was a success. Great. It doesn't even have to be outcome oriented. It could be today when we were doing sprints, every single sprint I gave 100% effort. And I know the last practice we did that, I didn't do that. And that's like, all right, that's a huge win, right? That's not outcome oriented by any means, but that's the level of effort that you gave. Or today at practice, I just had a great time at practice today. Every moment I felt present, I felt happy. I was excited to be out there. It's a huge win. Now, when we go into the failure piece or the negative aspect, when we shift that perspective to what can I learn from today's practice, that's when it could be, okay, today, I threw 50% strikes, and you said about the spider web. Now we can go back and in the reflection piece, when I'm saying what did we learn today, break that down. Okay, keep asking yourself. CJ on our last episode gave a really good idea of like the 5, 6, 7 questions, where once you continue to ask more and more questions, you understand the why behind things. If you keep asking yourself, okay, I threw 50% strikes. Now, why is that? Why did I do that? Okay, well, I didn't do that because I felt tired. Okay, well, why did you feel tired? Well, I was a little bit rushed before practice. I didn't sleep very well. Okay, why didn't you sleep very well? Well, the night before. You can kind of uncover some things that maybe snowballed into why something might not have worked the way it should have. And then you can ultimately correct it, right? It's something that you've learned. You don't necessarily say this is what I sucked at today, but it's what can I learn from today's practice to make tomorrow's practice even better? Right? So even in that opportunity, it's being grateful. Like the verbiage there is being grateful that there were lessons learned from the opportunity, not like where did I not do very well at practice today? Because that's not being very appreciative or grateful or thankful, obviously. That's focusing on the negative, but saying, what are the lessons that I've learned? Because when you learn those lessons, you'll be very thankful that you have those, right? And you're able to grow and learn from those. So I think ultimately, kind of the way that you shift the way you, I guess, word your journaling is probably the most important out of all of that.
I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that could have helped a ton.
Yeah, no. And again, it's something that I definitely wish I did more because, again, we've talked about this so many times on the podcast. Like, I know Kyle Massey was a big one that talked about like momentum. Like, momentum is everything. And think about it. You start journaling your gratitude every day. Now, 2 things that you're thankful for. Now, if you do that every day, that's 14 things a week that you're thankful for, that you're grateful for, right? Over the course of the month, what is that? Now you have 60 things, 30 days, 60 things you're thankful for every single month. Like, just putting that into perspective, it's like, how lucky am I? Just the idea of having those things and it snowballing and building and building and building is everything. It's way more important. And it kind of brings you back to your why as well, because it's like, okay, well, the things that you're going to be grateful for or thankful for are going to align with the why as to why you do things, right? Like, and it could be, okay, I am thankful and grateful for going to a Northeast school, and we're practicing in January and February, and it's cold outside, and we're practicing an indoor practice, and it's 5:30 in the morning, and there's snow on the ground, and I can't even feel my hands outside driving to practice because it's so cold. But I'm thankful for the opportunity that we get to go to practice, because I know this is going to get us to where we need to be, because this is building our grit, our resilience, our effort, our energy levels, right? Because if we're going to wake up at 5 in the morning to go practice indoors in the cold and go get our work done, like when we get to May and we're waking up in a hotel in regionals and it's warm out and you're ready to go ball, right? Like that's the easy part. That's where everyone is excited to go play. But when you put in that work in the off season where it's freezing and no one truly wants to wake up at 5 in the morning in order to get there, but once you get there, it's like, I'm thankful that we're here and everyone's on the same page and we're working hard together. You know, it's just putting those things into perspective, because that's what's going to build towards the end of the year when your team needs you most. We want to take a quick second to let you know that today's podcast is brought to you by the Philly Pretzel Factory of Marlton, New Jersey. Whether it's picking up a snack between games or picking up a party tray for the big game, the Philly Pretzel Factory of Marlton has you covered. For all of your pretzel needs, make sure you stop by the Philly Pretzel Factory of Marlton, located on North Maple Ave. Let them know that the ARC podcast sent you. Now back to the episode.
I agree. And one, I'm grateful that you said you do 2 things you're grateful for a day. That's 14 times a week. And you said, how many is that in a month? My brain completely just turned off. I was like,
it's all, I almost didn't have it. Don't worry. I almost didn't have it too.
Y equals MX plus B. That's what was in my head. But no, you're 100% right. Like, all these Northeast teams, man, like everyone's just like, oh, they're less talented, they're not outside, every single time of the day. But like, it should make you want to gnaw somebody's leg off when you for 8
yes.
get outside and be on the field and like be able to compete and like showcase your talent, because it's a true thing. Like if you're in the South, if you're in the West, like you're even in the Midwest, you're gonna be outside majority year round playing
definitely
baseball, right? Like, and if you're in the Midwest, I get it. You get some Northeast like weather here and there,
right, of course.
Probably still outside a little bit more, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know, and that's just how it goes. But it's just like those moments where it's like something that you can't do, even though you have no control over it, should still make you grateful for the chance that you get to do.
Definitely.
You still have no control over it, right? You don't control the weather. You don't know if you're going to get outside 7 days a week. You don't know if you're ever going to see a actual, light tower fly ball outside until you play your first game in the spring. Right?
Most likely not, right?
Most likely not.
Yeah.
So it's just like invest in those moments and make the most of it every single chance you get.
Yeah. No, and I think, as coaches too, or as teammates, like, you can also kind of practice gratitude together, right? Like as a team, like what are we thankful for? What are we grateful for? Like you can start practice that way. You can start team meetings. It's like, hey, before we start, I want 2 people to speak up and say like, what are you thankful for or grateful for today? Like when we're in this team meeting, what is it? Whatever it is, right? And it could be anything. It doesn't even need to be baseball related, but it could be whatever you are thankful for or grateful for. Just kind of building that positive energy and momentum, right? That's key. That's huge. It's really, really important. And then again, you can have teammates too, where it's like, sometimes your teammates, and again, we've both been in this scenario, and I've probably been this guy as well, and I'm sure you have too, where you're practicing early in the morning at 5:30 and it's freezing and you don't necessarily want to be there in that moment, right? Because it's like, oh man, could be sleeping in. It's so stupid that we're up so early. You know what I mean? But like sometimes that you need a teammate that'll be like, hey, like I know this sucks right now, but come May, you're going to be really grateful that we had these opportunities and that this is where we practiced all this, right? And also, you're in that moment. How lucky are you that you get to fail at practice at 5:30 in the morning indoors to get all that shit out of the way? So then when we come and play in Florida, in Myrtle, and wherever you go in February to go play, like all the cobwebs are out and you're ready to go, right? It's like, I threw all my bullpens inside. I'm outside. This is game day. I'm ready to go. This is amazing, right? And I think, truthfully, as a Northeast school, when we went down to our Florida trips, I think it meant more to us than a lot of other of those Southern schools because that was, like you said, some years the first time that we're playing baseball outside. And it's like these were our first games playing outside. And it's like, how lucky are we that we get to be here now in this moment? And we're now not in the North playing in the snow, right? It's like, this is unbelievable. And every year that we played in Florida, we played very well, right? Against schools from all over. And I think a lot of it had to do with that perspective and that gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't be getting go outside, Florida. It's hot, right? You get to go to Myrtle
Yeah.
Beach. Like you get to actually be outside in some nice weather. You don't have to
Right.
brush snow off your field. You don't have to like trek it through with the
Of course.
turtleneck Under Armours. Like you actually get to play, and like you
Yes.
should be thankful for that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly.
No, I think too, just thinking about that with like the Florida trip, like gratitude also helps us extend beyond our athletic identity in a sense, where like just thinking in Florida, the perspective, like, oh, we're student athletes, right? Like, we're this, we're this, we're this. Now, when you go to Florida or whatever trip, or you're playing, or you have these opportunities that a lot of the maybe students at your school didn't have, or a lot of people that tried out for your team that didn't make it don't have these opportunities. It puts things into perspective like, how lucky am I and how grateful am I that these are the opportunities that I'm getting and that I get to experience these with my closest friends, right? Like it goes deeper than just being like I'm grateful that I'm performing well. It's like I'm grateful that I get to hang out with all these guys every day and I'm having a blast and we get this opportunity to go on these trips and travel and do all these things. Like putting that into perspective also separates from your performance driven identity, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, I can focus on the things that are happening right now and what's cool about doing all this rather than trying to focus on just achieving what I want to achieve.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Like you get to take the field with these guys. You get to go 100%. Like those are things you can kind of control for the most part
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
invest in rather than being like, oh man, I went over four. Or, oh man, I went 5
Right.
for 4. Right? Like, nah, I
Right.
get it. Like 100%. Like I know at the end of the year, every single year, like Coach Bright always used to say to us, like, hey, like this is the last time we're all going to be together, right? And it's like that moment kind of like snaps in your mind, like, man, this is the last moment that like this specific team is all going to be together because next year is going to be
Right.
new faces and some old faces are going to be gone. So it's like it makes you in that moment kind of like wrap everything up, and it's almost like you. It always made me wonder, especially once I was done, not really in the moment because I'm like, oh man, I'll be back here next year, right? Like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
once you graduate or like when you coach and you hear it and you hear him say it, you're like, man, like, no, it's the truth, and like in that moment there's probably like maybe 5 maybe 30 guys they don't really truly understand what that means, right? Like they can't truly be grateful for it, but it goes back to what we began this conversation at. Like when you're in the moment it's hard to kind of take a step back and like look and like see everything in front of you and everything like that, but like once you're out of it or when you're not amongst that or you've had it happen multiple times, then you're able to kind of like look at it and you're like, man, like he's not going to be here again next year. He's not going to be again next year. And you really actually get to
Right.
appreciate those same guys, once you really truly understand that every single day and not in that moment when that's being said.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And now my question to you, Matt, from like a coach's perspective, I'd love to hear like I think we've dove very deep into, the gratitude aspect when you're in season, when you're playing. But right now, right, we're in the off season. And like you guys aren't practicing, a lot of D2 and D3 schools are not practicing. And, you know, D1 schools too, like a lot of these guys are home and they're separated from this pro ball guys now are home. They're not practicing with their teams. They're not training with their teams. They're training individually. Now, how can we express that gratitude now that we're in the off season compared to being in season? Because I think for us, obviously, in season's really fun. Like you're playing games, you're having a good time. It's a lot easier to be thankful and grateful for those moments. But now, this in the off season is the opportunity where people aren't watching you and they're not watching your every movement. You're kind of working on your own. You're doing these things. You're kind of taking accountability amongst yourself to get better at the things that you need to get better at. Like, how can we practice gratitude from your perspective, I guess, as a coach with your players in the off season, compared to being in season when I guess that's like what everyone's looking forward to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, for me at least, like I'm grateful for the time that you get to spend in fall ball and like preparing for like the season and like obviously in
Yeah.
fall ball you're doing a lot of different things like you're putting in you install your system, you're doing different things. Like for me, getting to work with hitters, work with defense, everything like that, and so
Yeah.
like I'm thankful for like the investment that those guys allow me to have like in them and like their player development, their personal development and everything like that. And so like, for me not to sit here and like take that for granted, it's almost like game planning like the next step, right? Like, okay, like what when we get back, like, hey, what are we gonna do with this guy? What are we gonna do with that guy? Like how are we gonna do this? Like, almost kind of like thinking about it and everything like that. But also it goes to like taking out the game as well. Like just texting a guy on the side, hey, how the semester go? Like, hey, how's everything going? Just checking in on like the person, just
Yeah.
because I'm grateful to have these 40 guys like in my life every single day, right? And
Yeah.
like
Right.
eat through good practices, good games, bad games, right? Good moments, bad moments, argues, moments of shared human connection, right? Like you have to be grateful for it all because like it's a relationship at the end of the day between player, coach, everything like that. And so for me, like I've always been the guy's like, oh, I want this guy to enjoy the time off, like hey,
Yeah.
happy Thanksgiving, hey, happy holidays, like going back and forth and everything like that. Hey, did you do anything over break and everything like that? I will say when I first got into it, it's like, hey, you swing it this week? Hey, like,
Yeah. 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 Of course.
you did everything you need to do, but like man, shoot, like these guys are kids at the end of the day too. Like they need to enjoy their break and everything like that. Like, oh, you bought the new Call of Duty? Like, just kind of going
Yeah.
back and just like breaking it down to like the atom level and just making sure that like those guys are all doing well and they're happy with their time off and everything.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good perspective too. Is in the off season, obviously, our main focus is going to be like getting better and improving in order to get to where we want to be come springtime. So we're ready to play, we're ready to ball out and do what we want to do. But again, it also is a time to decompress a little bit, spend time with your family, spend time with friends that, come spring, you're not going to have the time to see and hang out with and do the things that you want to do. So I do think that's a really good point where it's like, kind of being really grateful and thankful that you have the time to spend with these people because come springtime, right? It's showtime. It's ready to go. We're ready to go play. We're ready to do the things that we need to do in order to win ball games. But right now, like you should be really grateful for I get to spend time with my family. I get to spend time with my friends. And then also on the training side, on the improving for spring, right? There is a gratitude level of I'm appreciative that every day I get to wake up and maybe, you're not focused on school because you're on break. It's in the off season. Like I'm really appreciative that I can focus on my training today, right? Like I can get better still. I can do the things that I want to do today. I have the opportunity today to continue to improve and get better. And I'm thankful for that because if I do this, every day and that momentum builds and that gets to where I want to go, come springtime, I know that I'm going to be the best version of myself and be ready to go. So I think it is important to, practice gratitude, especially, in the off season when we are building for that springtime.
Absolutely. I got to start my journal.
Yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. It's definitely something I need to incorporate more as well. But no, I think this is a good place to kind of wrap up. And again, in the light of this gratitude episode as well, like a year ago, Matt and I kind of started with this idea. I was actually looking at old photos. It's really funny, and last year at this time we were looking at logos and sending them back and forth to each other like, do you like this one, you like this one? So it's funny that a year ago at this point, right, like we kind of started with this idea and began to build this thing that has now become something we do every week, which is awesome, right? Like we've met a lot of cool people. Our network has, continued to grow with the guests that we've had on, the conversations that we've had with people, the people that have, messaged the two of us or talked to the two of us about the things that we've talked about on the podcast or the people we've had on or the things that we're doing. And we're both, really appreciative for that opportunity. And obviously the goal is to continue to grow and bring out episodes and see where this thing takes us. But, we're really appreciative for kind of the network that we've been able to grow through this platform because we've had on a lot of, really cool guests, a lot of special guests, a lot of guys and women who have reached out and have been, thankful for their experiences on the podcast, and we've maintained a relationship with them. Ultimately, really appreciative and thankful for all the experiences that we've kind of had on the podcast so far, and many more in the next year to come as well. Yeah. So keep that into perspective while you guys are in your off season. For a lot of you, make sure we're staying grateful, staying thankful, staying appreciative for the things that we have and that we're working on. Try to implement that into your journaling every day if you can. Just think about the things that you're grateful for. And yeah, no, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.